Yesterday, we got some very interesting news that confirms some of the insane rumors surrounding Bitcoin and the Middle Eastern war. Most people thought that when Iran was demanding $2 million of Bitcoin for every ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz, that it was just a gimmick. However, they just announced a new $10 billion Bitcoin strategy that you're going to want to see. But what nobody is considering is how this could be opening up an unwanted attack vector on Bitcoin, just as the very same time the Clarity Act looked like it was making progress in Washington, D.C., it looks like Bitcoin in the strategic Bitcoin reserve race is really accelerating right now. Bitcoin is really taking a major role in the geopolitical macro landscape. And even though this news story in and of itself, I would say, is a big story, it really does remind me of a classic Satoshi tweet, or rather, post on the Bitcoin forums in regards to WikiLeaks. If you guys remember, in the early days of Bitcoin, WikiLeaks sought to use Bitcoin because they were getting they were getting, I don't want to say sanctions, but they were getting pressure on their payments and they wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. And at the time, Bitcoin was still very, very young. And Satoshi made this quote here. I think everyone that's been in Bitcoin knows this quote. And when I saw this news story, it really reminded me of this. And of course, the quote goes, "It would have been nice to get this attention in any other context. WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest and the swarm is headed towards us." So that was my initial thought when I heard this. I'm like, man, are we kicking the hornet's nest? Well, it's not us necessarily. Is Iran kicking the hornet's nest right now? And I know in Bitcoin context, we always talk about the game theory, the place that Bitcoin takes in the macro landscape. And even though the U.S. is seemingly about to embrace Bitcoin with the Clarity Act, and we know President Trump came out and started this whole geopolitical Bitcoin race, strategic Bitcoin reserve race, what we're seeing from Iran is very interesting. And I think it is giving a lot of political attack vector. We are seeing in the current moment that, hey, on the one hand, the Trump administration wants to embrace Bitcoin. On the other hand, at least in the current moment, our nemesis, or, the Trump administration, the U.S.'s perceived evil enemy in the Middle East, is now fully embracing Bitcoin at the same time that we potentially might have regulatory clarity. You're starting to see the geopolitical implications here. Now, obviously, from Iran's perspective, we totally understand this. A geopolitical neutral money that cannot be sanctioned is obviously something that they want to get paid in. And when we first heard this news story in regards to Strait of Hormuz payments or fees for the shipping lanes being paid in Bitcoin and also in a stable coin, it was like a big news story. It was a huge move here. It was a 5D chess move. I hate to use that, but it's truly what it was. Well, now we're seeing, hey, not only are they potentially, if the Strait of Hormuz ever opens up again, I know if you've been watching Trump right now, there's been a ceasefire. It seems like some ships are going through, but not many. It seems like just the allies of Iran ships are going through and everyone else is still waiting to get through. And we haven't been able to confirm if any payments in Bitcoin have been received, except for one that was a scam payment. So it seemed like rumors, but this is coming out now. And it's not just in regards to the fees to get through the shipping lanes, but it is the insurance coverage of these ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And here's the headline. Iran launches Bitcoin-backed insurance service for Strait of Hormuz shipping, eyes $10 billion in revenue. So remember, the numbers for just the ship fees to get through was about 2 million per ship, or maybe 50 million per day, depending on how many ships go through. Obviously, that would have been, if it went as we initially heard in the beginning of this whole Strait of Hormuz debacle, if you're letting me be a little lenient here, That would have been a huge amount of Bitcoin to be stacked. That's a lot of Bitcoin being used on a daily basis. Now, on top of that, now they're eyeing another $10 billion of Bitcoin revenue. That's what, 130,000, 100 plus coins in revenue. You're starting to see this is a pretty big move in terms of the strategic Bitcoin reserve race. Obviously, this has just been announced. We'll see if any follow through comes through with this, but it's still the fact that it's being used to me is huge signal. Anyways, let's go in here. So Iran has reportedly launched, quote, Hormuz Safe, a Bitcoin settled maritime insurance platform aimed at cargo owners and shipping firms operating through the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. Iran is reportedly launching a Bitcoin-settled maritime insurance platform called Hormuz Safe, targeting cargo owners and shipping companies that transit through the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, and projecting more than $10 billion in revenue for the Islamic Republic. The platform, backed by Iran's Ministry of Economy and Financial Affairs, was first reported by the IRGC-affiliated Fars news agencies, which cited internal government documentations, according to Bloomberg. The Hormuz Safe website describes the services offering, quote, fast, verifiable digital insurance paid via Bitcoin and settled at the speed of blockchain. I actually have the screenshot. I did try to type in this website this morning, so it didn't work for me, but I did see Dennis Porter has a screenshot of this, and I was really trolling this morning. I'm like, man, I'm totally just put my computer IP on some kind of list because it didn't go through for me. So I don't know how we got this screenshot here, but here's Dennis Porter, and he goes, Bitcoin cannot be stopped. Iran is evading sanctions and accepting Bitcoin as payment for safe passage in the Strait of Hormuz. The world is changing fast. National security hawks need to take this very seriously, update their mental model, and begin planning for a new paradigm. You can see the website here, Hormuz Safe, Iranian digital insurance, secure digital insurance for maritime cargo, and you can see via payment. Paid via Bitcoin and settled at the speed of blockchain. Again, I tried to type in this website. It was hormuzsafe.ir. I couldn't get through. So I don't know how Dennis got through. I don't know how he got this website, but I tried. You know, I do this for you people. Who knows what's going on here? I'm probably a little cooked. Anyways, going a little further, we can see coverage under the proposed scheme includes risk from vessel inspection, detention, and confiscation, with war damage claims excluded. The ministry has been developing the framework since April, according to documents obtained by Fars. As of the time of reporting, it was not possible to confirm whether the platform was operational or had processed any real policies, which is what I was saying. This is the potential strategy to acquire $10 billion of Bitcoin. Nothing confirmed yet. It was just launched this weekend. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me go back here. Anyways, this is probably where you're starting to see, I think the Dennis Porter tweet kind of showed the big implication here, but it goes, this launch marks a formalization of financial mechanisms Iran has been constructing around the Strait for months. In March 2026, Iran's parliament passed the Strait of Hormuz Management Plan, a law that codified a transit toll system the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had been operating since mid-March. Under that framework, the IRGC extracts fees from vessels seeking passage, with operators required to submit vessel ownership details, cargo type, destination, and crew information to an IRGC-linked intermediary before receiving a permit code. Fees have started around $1 per barrel, with a vessel carrying a full load facing charges up to $2 million. Obviously, this was proposed as a payment in Bitcoin, and also, from what I saw, a yuan-pegged stablecoin. Anyways, obviously, if you understand why they would be leaning on Bitcoin, it's not that crazy to think about this idea. Bitcoin is a permissionless, neutral money, geopolitically neutral money. And obviously, Iran is facing sanctions from the U.S. government. Well, Bitcoin is unsanctionable. I don't even think that's a word, but that's why Bitcoin is being used right now. Now, in the context of all of this, I actually saw a few funny tweets. Let me pull up those tweets because you can see some kind of the funny takes from Bitcoiners. that you just love to see. I just love to see this stuff on Twitter. But first one was from Pierre Rochard. It was actually, I got a chuckle of this. So when this was tweeted from Kalshi, Pierre Rochard, one of my favorite Bitcoiners, one of the Bitcoiners that basically got me here, Orange Pill me, goes, not the first scammers to use Bitcoin and definitely not the last. And then his back and forth with Mr. Hodl is super funny. And he goes, Bitcoin maxis are some of the largest scammers. Pierre Rochard goes, cry harder. And then Mr. Hodl goes, I'm not crying. Everyone wants your Bitcoin, including scammers. Example, see Iran. And then he goes a little further and he goes, everyone's a scammer. Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, which is Pierre Rochard's, site with his partner, the legendary Bitstein, who wrote the infamous article, Everyone's a Scammer. And he goes, I'm not sure why people get upset when I say some Bitcoin maxis are also the largest scammers on the planet. I consider Iran right now Bitcoin maxis. And yes, they are scammers. You just love to see it. Anyways, again, connecting this with the Satoshi quote of WikiLeaks, this is where it starts to make me think that maybe we're getting some unwanted spotlight here in the current moment. Yes, Bitcoin is entering the geopolitical landscape. Yes, Bitcoin is maturing from an institutional perspective, an institutional embracing of Bitcoin. But further, now that we are, as we all saw last week, almost about to pass the Clarity Act, need I remind you what Elizabeth Warren was saying? She was using this as one of the big examples. Now, the real question to me, it's a very simple question. Is Bitcoin big enough currently to face this much backlash from the global world stage? Now, personally, I think Bitcoin will only get stronger. As we know, Bitcoin is anti-fragile technology, and the bigger we get and the more we get tested, the stronger Bitcoin gets. We all know this to be true. In the current moment, the real question is, can we take this much, I would say maybe bad press? I don't think it's going to stop Bitcoin, but what we could see is a huge political backlash right now. What we could see is a political angle to villainize every single one of us. Even if us Bitcoiners called this out and be like, hey, look, we do not endorse the IRGC, but as we know, Bitcoin is for enemies. Anyone in the world can use Bitcoin. I don't like the saying Bitcoin is for everyone. I like the saying Bitcoin is for anyone. We do have to mentally prepare ourselves to have, for lack of better terms, our worst enemies use Bitcoin. And that's where we currently are. Like, I'm not saying that that is the case right now, but what I'm saying is we are going to see even more political backlash from this. Now, is Bitcoin grown up enough to withstand this kind of heat? Or are we in a new era of the Satoshi WikiLeaks quote? That's where my head is at when I see this. Yes, in and of itself, this is a big story. Bitcoin-backed insurance payments, obviously huge. Bitcoin payments to go through the strait, obviously huge. Bitcoin is starting to become not just a store of value, but a medium of exchange on the world stage. It is huge. Absolutely huge news story in and of itself. But in the context of everything going on in the world, it does make you start to consider the second order effects of what's going on here. It starts to make you ask these questions of, are we big enough to withstand this heat? Maybe the bear market's getting to me, I'll admit. Maybe I'm getting a little, I don't want to say bearish, but maybe I'm getting a little worn down currently. Though, from my perspective, I would argue that since Bitcoin is being used by so many people globally, that one bad person using Bitcoin isn't going to paint us all as evil, bad people. I'm just saying that from our perspective in the media space, looking at where the attack vectors are coming from is one of the things that I constantly do. How will this be framed in the context of the global narrative around Bitcoin? And then at the same time, Bitcoin dumps, not only on this news, but I don't know if you guys saw, Saylor buys another $2 billion of Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin being used as a medium of exchange on the world stage through the IRGC, and Bitcoin dumps right now. Now, is there a correlation on this? Who knows? But it does make the narrative shift around Bitcoin being used. It's a little harder to sell to some people. But this is what we knew Bitcoin was going to do. Now, is the timeline accelerating because of where we currently are? Because Trump essentially himself kicked the hornet's nest, because he embraced Bitcoin and the political game theory, the Bitcoin strategic race definitely got accelerated when Trump came out in 2024 at the Bitcoin conference and was like, we are going to become the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Now, when we talk about this a lot, most of us just thought of this as a positive thing. Oh, now everyone's going to just start embracing Bitcoin. Everyone's going to start buying Bitcoin. Oh, everyone's going to have a Bitcoin balance sheet. And when we say that, we probably had the idea of, oh, it's just going to be the good guys using Bitcoin. It's just going to be the good guys that use Bitcoin. And now there is a attack vector here, at least a narrative attack vector of like, oh, the bad guys use Bitcoin, which isn't really something new that we've heard in Bitcoin. We've been called criminals, money launderers, whatever. Every bad name in the book. And yet Bitcoin gets stronger and stronger. And now we're being embraced by the biggest institutions in the world. I think we are starting to see a new test here. Not just one of, can Bitcoin withstand Wall Street, but can Bitcoin withstand the political pressure that will be thrust upon it because of, quote, bad people using this? I've been saying for months on this show that as a Bitcoin holder, we have to fundamentally steel our minds for these kind of narrative attacks. And even though in some light, this will be looked at as a data point of Bitcoin entering the world stage, from an individual perspective, now we have a whole new can of worms to unpack for people. Now we have to shift our narrative of what Bitcoin is so that your family doesn't think you're a bad person. Now we are seeing that, hey, there may be further sanctions, attack vectors on Bitcoin. The Clarity Act might be even further under pressure currently. We're going to be seeing some very interesting things just because of this news story alone play out on the world stage. Now, am I afraid? Not necessarily. I'm just saying the heat is upon us. The spotlight is on us now. And if they do acquire who knows how much Bitcoin, I think when I did the math of the payment fees to go through the Strait of Hormuz, it would be something about 50 million a day, so about 50 billion a year potentially. Now add another 10 billion. That's a lot of Bitcoin. Saylor, at least the numbers I remember he had, and BlackRock, they hold about 60, 70 billion dollars of Bitcoin. These are big numbers. If they are able to get the Strait open, first and foremost, because there's still negotiations here, and it seems like the negotiations on the Strait of Hormuz are coming to a head here. I saw Trump tweet over the weekend, like, clock is ticking. We got to figure this out. There's been negotiations. The negotiations have been kicked out the door. Now there's more. Now that seems like maybe they're coming back to the table. Maybe Trump is putting a little more pressure to open it up. But say they are able to get these fees paid in Bitcoin. Now also stack a lot more Bitcoin on top of that through this insurance, Bitcoin maritime insurance of another 10 billion. That gets Iran and the IRGC up to one of the biggest nation state holders of Bitcoin. The geopolitical implications of this are starting to really, really expose themselves. Hence why I think Dennis Porter is kind of right. Like, it is becoming very obvious there is a national strategic security effort that should be emphasized on Bitcoin right now. if the U.S. continues to fight Bitcoin, if there is no Bitcoin announcement from the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve in the United States, and this gets to get out the door, the shift around who is the leader in Bitcoin fundamentally changed. Though I did see this morning, and it's something that we heard at the Bitcoin conference, but Patrick Witt also came out this morning, I believe it was through a Yahoo interview, and he said that there will be a big announcement here soon. So I'm not gonna, maybe I'll play the clip for you guys in the numbers, but apparently on the horizon, something big is going to be announced soon. Now, what is that big move? We've been speculating on this show for a while that the U.S. is probably stacking Bitcoin. They have to be acquiring Bitcoin at this point. You can't telegraph your moves like this on the world stage and not be silently buying Bitcoin. So if that is the next announcement that we get here, that is a huge move. And then this starts to get put in context of what is actually going on. I know when we first started talking about this, some of you guys are like, oh, clickbait title. There is no Bitcoin war going on. There is no nation state level game theory playing out of acquiring more Bitcoin. I think it's becoming very clear there is an actual angle to Bitcoin in the Middle East. Now, there's been some speculations that maybe some of the stuff we did in the Middle East was so that we can get Bitcoin. Maybe we got Venezuela's Bitcoin, you know, that we've seen these headlines. Now, those are, for lack of better terms, have been just complete speculations and rumors. But if we do see something from this announcement of an announcement and the U.S. is acquiring more Bitcoin, maybe we hear like, yo, we got another 100,000 plus. Who knows how much coin they have acquired. But if we do hear that they have actually bought a lot of Bitcoin in a, quote, budget neutral way, then things are getting very interesting in regards to what is going on the world stage in regards to Bitcoin. It does almost like this is no longer your what's the saying? This is no longer your grandfather's Bitcoin, even though obviously that makes no sense because Bitcoin's only 17 years old. But it does lean into what I've been saying for a while, that we are entering a new phase here. Now, do I want to say this time's different? Obviously not. I've been trying to not say that, even though I do say it. But we are very clearly entering a new phase of Bitcoin. Now, is this what we've all been saying, like early adopters to early majority phase? We don't really know where we are on the timeline. But what is becoming very clear is that we have fundamentally entered the geopolitical macro conversation. Not only in terms of Bitcoin being a macro asset for institutional investors to add to their portfolio, but also as a geopolitically neutral money in the face of fiat currencies, in the face of war, in the face of people not trusting each other, in the face of trust eroding globally. It does feel like things are changing in terms of where Bitcoin sits in the mindshare of the world stage. We are no longer just the dirty conversation on the internet. This is in the highest levels of all the institutions, of all the state backroom talks. Now we know for a fact that there are real conversations happening around Bitcoin. It's no longer where you can just ignore us because we're all just kids on the internet behind, anon profile pictures. It's not just YouTubers talking about this. Bitcoin conversations are happening at the highest levels. And it does make you wonder, can we withstand the heat, guys? The heat is rising in the kitchen now, guys. Now, obviously, these are just headlines. Has there been any real traction behind these Bitcoin payments, behind this Bitcoin-backed insurance, maritime insurance? Not yet. But just the insertion of that idea into the narrative is very interesting of where we currently stand. This show been on 24 minutes. Yeah, we started a little early. We had to change the show a little bit. We got a very special guest in the studio, and we wanted to get the first news story in. So, but I did see a good intro. I always mess up your name. Intra-Belden. Iran has just proved that money can move through Bitcoin seamlessly, even if you have the largest adversary in the world. 100%. Going further, it says the longer it goes on and the more tolls they take, the more it cements proof that it works no matter what. That is the more positive view of this. 100%. That is what I'm saying, as well as what they're saying. The fact that they want Bitcoin is proving this exact point. And the longer this goes on, the more it proves this point, and the narrative gets stronger and stronger and stronger. 100%. But I can't be alone in the idea that it does feel like the hornet's nest is starting to get smoked out a little bit here. It seems like they're maybe getting kicked a little bit. Seems like maybe it's buzzing. And the conversation is going to heat up. The U.S. will definitely try to hurt Bitcoin now. Potentially. Jay Cortez, who is nobody? I don't think that that's true. Jay Cortez is nobody trusting Bitcoin until Trump gets away from it. I don't think that that's the case. Iran's embracing it, even though Trump's been embracing it. It's literally the game theory playing out. It's the prisoner's dilemma here. What's the war game quote from that movie? I forget the movie, but it's like the only winning move is to play. From the movie, it's the only winning move is not to play, but the only winning move is to play now. And that's where we are in the story. You have to play. Wait, you have to play with your Bitcoin. Remember Trump? Have fun playing with your Bitcoin. Now the world is starting to play with Bitcoins. Quote. Other side of the aisle, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you mean, man. 139K Bitcoin left on the OTC desk and falling. Yeah, there is a huge push for Bitcoin right now. And like further, I know we did the show where Sailor on Friday was saying, like, no matter what I do, the Bitcoin price does what it wants, regardless of what we do. And that is totally what we're seeing happen. You know, Sailor bought $2 billion of Bitcoin last week, had literally the biggest day ever in stretch. And what Bitcoin do over the weekend? It dumped. We're at 76K right now. It's very interesting to say the least. It's definitely, I think, starting to we're at 76.2 right now. Amazing. So we have not only Bitcoin shipping fees to be paid in Bitcoin, we have Bitcoin-backed insurance to go through the Strait of Hormuz paid in Bitcoin. We have Sailor buying $2 billion of Bitcoin. We have BlackRock increasing their exposure of MicroStrategy. We have the institutions embracing Bitcoin currently. I saw Trump himself invested in Mara, and yet the Bitcoin price dumps. It's a funny world we live in right now. It's almost like no amount of good news or bad news is really affecting the price. The Bitcoin price is just doing what it wants to do. Absolutely insane stuff going on. Anyways, guys, we got a great show for you guys. I am going to pass the baton to Nico here because we got a very special guest from Rumble in the studio today. We're super excited for that. So I'm going to hit the first commercial break. I think I might be gone for the rest of the show. But on that note, guys, we'll be right back after this break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Yo, we're back here at the Simply Bitcoin studio. Opti holding it down in the first segment. We got a very special guest joining us in the house today. We got Justin from Rumble joining us. Justin, thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Hey, thanks, Nico. I appreciate being here. I mean, you have a lovely studio, great people. I'm excited to be here.
Dude, thanks for joining us, man. First of all, I'm a huge fan of you. I'm also a huge fan of what you guys are building over at Rumble. Free speech focused. I remember when we got deplatformed for a couple of days, we migrated the live show to Rumble in particular. And for us, like, what meant a lot was the fact that a lot of our audience actually followed us to the platform. So I think what you guys are doing at Rumble is so important for content creation in general, because so many people aren't just dependent on one platform where there's risks, and you guys have this freedom-minded mentality that I think is incredibly important. And not to mention the fact that you guys are now focused a lot on the Bitcoin space as well. So that has me incredibly excited also.
Yeah. I always say competition validates the marketplace. I think, you know, what YouTube, they started out kind of like where we're at. And obviously it just got invaded by people who wanted to control narratives. It got invaded in politics. It got invaded in all sorts of things. And the problem with that is that now you have someone who has total control, or a corporation has total control. So if they don't like what you're saying or like what you're doing, we can shut you down. And I don't believe in that. I'm a big believer in, if you don't like what someone's talking about, just ignore it. Like, it's super simple. So, you know, what we're doing at Rumble is really just looking to compete in a marketplace, give people alternative options, but also not taking away from they're currently doing, just adding more value to them. And at the end of the day, we just want to add value to people who want to be able to speak their voice. Because I think now we're in a new day and age where, you know, content creation, talking about what's going on in the world, whatever you want to talk about, there's an audience for everything, and you should be able to express that and reach that audience, and nobody should be able to stop you with that.
100%. I mean, I think that was the original vision of the internet. The original vision of the internet was this idea for you're able to speak freely, you're able to discuss your ideas, and then for one reason or the other, it got politicized, right? And unfortunately, if there's just one platform and there is no competition, right, that platform does have the ability where it can, you know, essentially take that political route. But again, that opens an opportunity, that creates an opportunity for competition. It creates an opportunity for alternative platform to say, listen, if you don't want to service these voices that, you know, speak for a large majority of the American people, we're going to service these voices, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, and I think that's really where Rumble stepped up to the plate. And like, putting the politics aside, from the Bitcoiners' perspective, this is something that our entire industry kind of experienced, right? A lot of us have been deplatformed, us content creators, at one point or the other, for whatever reason. And to me, it gives me a peace of mind that there is a platform that is not only, you know, free speech oriented, but also you guys are focusing on Bitcoin. And that's a perfect segue to the fact that you guys just released the Rumble wallet. For anyone who doesn't know, the Rumble wallet is a non-custodial Bitcoin, Tether, and Tether Gold wallet. Most importantly, it's non-custodial, meaning even if Rumble wanted to freeze the funds in the wallet, they literally could not. So you guys just announced that. It was a big deal. I think we've received hundreds of dollars worth of tips. We've got some Tether Gold. We got Bitcoin in there. So some of you guys are definitely using it as well. And of course, we got Justin in the studio to talk about that today.
Yeah. So with the whole idea of Rumble Wallet and just the ideology of Rumble is freedom, freedom of your voice, freedom to do whatever you want, freedom to follow creators that you actually want to watch and deal with. And also, if you want to become a creator, being able to say your voice, speak your voice. And us creating the Rumble wallet aligns directly with that, because at the end of the day, our ideology is total control. You should be able to have control over your life and everything in it. And that's where, you know, that's obviously where you got, you know, had issues with YouTube, is because people in the Bitcoin space, people in the alternative monetary space, that threatens the already established system, because it's all about control at the end of the day. But now having these options, having like a platform like Rumble, having Rumble Wallet, being able to control your money, being able to actually pay creators in alternate ways, it gives people freedom. At the end of the day, it's about you being able to control what you have, owning what you control. And that's the most important thing. And we just want to emphasize that, because, you know, just to be honest, like, a lot of people have gotten comfortable with the establishment and the system. And a lot of people are relearning that freedom is something that you actually need to have control over. And I think it goes back to the whole, like, I would say like 10 years ago when cancel culture started to become like a really big thing, and people really started to see in real time, like, hey, I really don't have control out here. Hey, they debanked me. They deplatformed me. Like, you got to understand, this is your livelihood at the end of the day. So you need to have control in some way, shape, or form. That's not saying to not participate in the current system, but you need to have an insurance plan. And the insurance plan is alternative assets, alternative ways to actually view content, alternative ways to be able to monetize yourself. And this is going to go with every area of your life. And this is the world we're moving to, and we've reached a point of no return, and that's a good thing.
100% agree. 100% in agreement, 100% in alignment. And I would say it actually, because now there is competition, it actually forces the other people that are censoring to really take a double look and say, wait a second, like, if we do crack down on this, what we're going to do is we're just going to continue to lose market share. I don't think that's a good idea. So I think competition is incredibly important. And you guys are right now positioned in specifically in the live stream section. You guys are market leaders on that. Could you talk a little bit about that, Justin?
Yeah, so we focused a lot on live streamers, and simply because with live streaming, it has a engaged real-time audience. And it does two things. One, you're able to compete with like majors like YouTube, but also at the end of the day, you're also able to compete with mainstream media. And if you look at just numbers based on, if we just go to the political sector, I mean, you have solo creators live streaming on our platform, beating out the MSNBCs, beating out the Fox News. I mean, most of them are leaving to do their own thing and reaching out to us. And you're going to see that in every area of entertainment eventually, because I mean, it's happening right now in real time, but you're going to see that segue, because they're going to realize, hey, it's better if I can actually build my own platform. I can actually have my voice and actually take my audience from here and bring them here, especially if they love me, especially if they resonate with my message. And it's all about your messaging and who you message. Well, it's all about your message and how you deliver it to your audience. But at the end of the day, if you want to do it your way, I mean, you got YouTube guidelines, you got guidelines on other platforms, and that's cool and all. But if you can't reach your audience and you're wondering, hey, maybe rules will change, maybe things will change, and you're giving your livelihood to someone else, and that's what Rumble allows you to actually take control of. But like I said, that's going to be the future. The future is ownership of your own platform, utilizing these platforms to take your audience off of it. Because at the end of the day, you don't own or control any of this. And that's what I always emphasize. You always want to have something to where it's yours. And whether that's in the physical world or whether that's the digital world, you need that. And that's what we offer at Rumble.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that focus on sovereignty, right? The fact that it's yours, the fact that you're reclaiming it. You guys hear this all the time on Simply Bitcoin. We talk about reclaiming back your financial sovereignty. We talk about reclaiming back your sovereignty in general, whether that, again, is in media, whether that's in money, whether that's in communications, or we talk about Sat123, one of our partners, right? Reclaiming back your sovereignty. And if you are a Bitcoin creator or if you're a content creator in general, again, I don't think at this point, if you're, especially if you're trying to make a living off of that, I think it's a very wise idea to diversify the platforms that you're using. I think just putting all your eggs in one basket in the year of 2026, especially after all the things that happened during the pandemic and all these things that led to a lot of deplatforming, I think is a very unwise choice, right? And I've always been a big fan of Rumble. I got so excited when I heard that Tether made a major investment in you guys, because I knew that was just going to take you guys to the next level in terms of what you guys are offering and stuff like that. You guys just rolled out your shorts feature, which you guys have been tuning into the Rumble channel. We've been uploading all our shorts on there as well. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that the strategy has changed a little bit, Justin, because I know initially it was just focusing on the live streams, which that's initially what we did. But now you guys are focusing on shorts. Now you guys are focusing on traditional videos as well. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a few different things with shorts. If we just look at the space and content creation, you have clipping, which is major right now. And this is like how a lot of live streamers that are on other platforms, such as like Twitch or Kick, they're growing. Obviously they do other stuff, but we recognize what we could do, since we're already in the live stream space and since we already see what clipping is doing to be able to grow creators. This is another great strategy that we can actually use for our creators on the platform so they can grow, and also watermark it so we can actually grow the awareness of the platform. Because, at the end of the day, we want to grow and let people who don't know about what we're doing, they need to know. Like, everybody needs to know, because some people, I run into creators all the time who don't even know, like, they have the option of Rumble and being able to be uncensored in their content. But back to shorts, it's just that we want to be able to compete in that marketplace and also offer a different way that creators can eventually be monetized. Right now, we're at the current state, that is not monetized, but we're looking towards that in the second half of the year. But it's also to be able to grow your Rumble channel, because it just works. Clipping content, having your watermark on Rumble, and being able to post that all over these other platforms to drive traffic back to what you're doing. It's just a marketing strategy that everybody's using. So we wanted to participate in that, and we want to be able to compete with these other platforms. And what we're looking for is higher viewership. And it leads back to awareness, and that's why we created the Shorts program. Now with Tether, that partnership is strategic because, one, it's it's as you know, it's one of the largest crypto companies in the world, and number two, we're forward thinking. We're always thinking about what's the next step. How can we be innovative? How can we give creators more tools and resources to be able to grow their content, but also be able to control themselves? So it's just all about alignment. Like, everything we do is about freedom and sovereignty, and any company or any person that aligns with that's what we work with. And that's why we decided to work with them. And, it helps us with our Rumble wallet, push that to give creators like a voice and be able to be paid out in Bitcoin and USDT. But at the end of the day, with all these alignments, I think most creators and most people actually align with what we are doing. It's just more of an awareness issue. And that's why this year it's all about growth and getting the word out.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about this all the time, ladies and gentlemen, right? Whether it's free speech focused platforms like Rumble or freedom money like Bitcoin, it's an awareness thing. It's an educational thing. Like, how do you move the Overton window? How do you move the cultural needle for worldwide Bitcoin adoption? It's education. It's continuing to bat the drum day after day, consistent. And then, because I think that once people realize the sovereign alternatives, the freedom-minded alternatives, I think a lot of people are going to open their eyes and they're going to make the choice to say, listen, this makes perfect sense. Like, I should probably check this out. I should probably check out the alternative, at least dip your toes in it. Right. I would say, and this is a very strong statement, Justin, but I remember I was tuning in a lot into politics at this point. Because again, as Bitcoiners, we didn't really care about politics, Justin. We didn't really care. We lived in our bubble. We're like, listen, we got money that has rules without rulers. We don't need to care about politics. This is all fine. And then Operation Choke Point 2.0 started. And essentially what that was the previous administration essentially trying to destroy our industry by a death by 1,000 regulatory cuts. And that kind of forced us to throw our hat in the ring and start to care about politics, right? And of course, once you start going down that rabbit hole and you start consuming political content, you inevitably end up at Rumble. You're like, okay, this is where I'm going to see my favorite content creator because he's not available anywhere else. And then, of course, that lets you down the Rumble rabbit hole. But I want to make a very strong statement, and it's this: I don't think that the freedom movement today would be where it's at if it wasn't for the Rumble platform. The fact that you guys existed when you existed, if you guys weren't there, I don't think a lot of these very powerful and influential voices that exist. And again, guys, and this is a Bitcoin show, tying it back into Bitcoin, the fact that Bitcoiners too don't have an option for an alternative, I think is a very big deal. And I think we saw that with the previous election. We saw that with the pandemic. You guys became the platform for free speech thinking and thought. If you guys didn't exist, I don't know where we would be at today. I don't know where we would be at. And I think I've told you this off air, but I wanted to make sure that I'm telling you this on air in front of our audience.
Yeah, it's amazing because, you know, most people don't care about politics till it directly affects them. And that's the truth in every area of what we see in entertainment or music. People weren't really that political, if you say like 10, 15 years ago. But politics is such affect every area. It's kind of like you have to kind of get involved, especially if you want to have a voice. Because really the model right now is all about freedom. If you look in the music industry, it's freedom. If you look in your financial industry, when you're talking about Bitcoin, it's freedom. Everybody right now wants to be free. They want some sort of control. And Rumble, we offer that. That is our message. I'm telling you and looking you directly in the camera. That is our message, is freedom. Freedom to say what you want, freedom to do what you want, and also freedom to get paid how you want also too. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of every decision in politics affect all of us. Like, I particularly don't care for politicians or politics in general. It's just that I know these things affect my life, so I have to, especially now when you're talking about free speech or being able to say what you want or being able to just do things that you want. Everything affects us. So you kind of have to get involved. Everybody's involved in it. And they don't really want to be. It's just the world we live in.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the mainstream media shift that happened, which was a very, very big shift, Justin, that I would say happened in the last decade. We went from a world where there was literally a handful of channels where you would get your information to millions of channels, where these millions of channels, these independent content creators that, you know, built studios on themselves, you know, bought the equipment, are on par or actually outperforming traditional media.
Definitely.
So it's a whole different world, right? Before, I would always say it's a lot easier to control the narrative when there was a handful of media outlets where you could just knock on the door,
Yep.
right? And there was 4 or 5 news outlets on TV,
Yep.
and they were all saying the exact same thing.
Same
right?
thing.
There's that famous video of like the montage of like,
Yeah.
this is very dangerous for our democracy. And it
Right.
was like literally verbatim the exact same line on like 100 different channels. I think that the internet has fundamentally freed humanity in the sense of it's allowed peer-to-peer communications and it's allowed freedom of information, right? Which I think that a lot of us thought we had, but it really wasn't until the pandemic that it really lifted the veil and we realized, wait a second, this wasn't as free as we thought it was.
No. I think even the pandemic, I'm not going to go into it, but I think it gave people 2 things that they never actually had mostly in their life. They had time and they had money. So what that does is gives people an option to think. And people kind of saw what the world, what it actually really was. And then they started to shift and focus on people that they resonated with as opposed to corporations. And they realized, well, we've been lied to. We've been brainwashed. We've been told this, but it's actually not that. So a lot of people felt deceived. And I'm gonna go a little bit deep. Like this is the age of Aquarius we're moving into about the awakening. And you're seeing it in real time. People have shifted the narratives. They're starting to become more free thinking, more so free in what they want to watch, free in who they resonate with. That's why I always say this: one person with the right message is more powerful than a corporation. Because when you start on the grassroots level, whether that's starting on YouTube, well, I don't want to shut them out, whether you're starting on Rumble or whether you're starting on, out in the real world, if you can resonate and gather an audience, that's more powerful than coming from the top down, because it always looks like propaganda coming from the top down. And people know this now. 10 years ago, people didn't know this, but now they actually know this. This is why people resonate with people that they see on behind these cameras, even on their phones. They can hold their phone up. I like this guy's message. I don't care about them over there.
Absolutely. I mean, the pandemic, and we're going to get to more of this after the break. It's almost as if you're consuming your information, if you're getting your news from legacy media versus getting your news from independent media, you fundamentally live in an alternative reality.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. We got Justin from Rumble in the studio today, guys. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you guys are enjoying the show, and follow us on Rumble. Give us a like on Rumble. With the Rumble chat is the most lively chat. Justin, people don't they just speak their minds. It's interesting to see.
Just say what you want.
We're going to be right back after the break. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with 0 penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
We're double producing. Sorry, guys. Anyways, we're back in the studio. We got Justin from Rumble in the house, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to highlight this Rumble comment, which is hilarious. Rumble chat is like Modern Warfare 2 on Xbox. That is absolutely hilarious and so on point. Anyways, going back to this very deep conversation, which I've been enjoying, Justin, which is like, again, like the world went through this kind of pivotal shift. And I would say like the pandemic really accelerated it. It really started when Trump started going down the escalator in 2016. I think that was like the beginning of it. And then I think it started to accelerate when it started to accelerate during the pandemic. Right. Because of the censorship and the deplatform and everything like that. But going back to my original point, I think right now, if you are consuming your information on, if you're getting your information from legacy media versus getting your information from independent voices, you fundamentally live in different realities. And I think that trend only goes in one direction. I think that specifically for the younger generations, like I don't see the younger generations getting their information on Fox Business. I mean, maybe finance, but let's say I don't see the younger generation getting their information from like traditional I don't call them mainstream anymore, but like legacy news outlets. I think that world is slowly coming to an end. I think within 1 or 2 generations, I think the 99% of people on planet Earth are going to get they're going to get their information from independent media.
Yeah. Honestly, I give it less 10 years or less, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, if you're looking at most of the people who were born and bred in the legacy media are the generation of boomers and Gen X too. But I think there's a lot of big Gen X content creators now. But I think in like 10 years or less, I think that's really out. Like, I don't even remember the last time I've even seen a legacy media. Actually, no, I've seen it probably like recently, and it just looks like a clown show. Like I mean, you could see through the lies, especially like if you're talking about, Gen Z, millennials, like just watching those things, we don't resonate with that. Like, we do not resonate with that type of messaging. We do not resonate. We can see through the lies, and it's too much information out here, too many voices out here for us to even like look at that and take it seriously. So, I mean, those days are numbered. I think these legacy media, they know their days are numbered. A lot of them are still holding on to these narratives, still pushing out these people like they have like some sort of influence, and it's just not true anymore.
I 100% agree with you, man. And I do agree with you also that the timeline too, right? 10 years instead of, I was being nice and giving it a couple decades. But you're saying within a decade, you think this is over. And it's actually interesting you say this, Justin, because I remember when Opti and I we were first doing the show, and this is when we were barely known, we were barely getting any traction. One of the things that we started to realize was that we were actually, and again, we don't come from professional journalistic backgrounds, but one of the things we noticed was that we were more accurate in our quote unquote reporting than the people on legacy media. And that begs the question, which is like, are they really in the business of telling the news? Or are they in the business of telling a certain narrative about the world? Right.
Definitely. They're in the business of telling narratives that benefit them and their establishment. You know, you got to understand, and you already know this, there's a lot of insider trading going on. I mean, they're blatant with it now. They don't even care. So any narrative that they can stare for any particular reason for their benefit, they're just going to roll it out. But, you know, it's ridiculous at this point.
It's so ridiculous, and it's so blatant in your face, you know, and it's like they have no shame, and it's you know, but again, there's just too much information out there that it's like they're trying to, like, you know, stop a sinking ship, but like more holes end up opening up. Yeah. And it's like they don't have enough fingers to plug in. Exactly. And it's crazy. What does that type of world look like from now, like, Justin, like 10 years from now? Because I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'll say, like, look, like, you know, it's fantastic. It's fantastic that there's independent media, but at the same time, it does require, like taking Bitcoin into self-custody, an element of responsibility, because you do need an element of critical thinking, right? Like, it's like you can just see a post, you know, on a specific social media platform, but it's not just a matter of seeing the post and then taking it, you know, at face value, which I don't think you should even be doing that with legacy media either. Right. It's seeing a post and then doing your own research and then getting to the bottom of that post, which again requires critical thinking. And then this is where reputation comes into play, which I think reputation on the internet is something that is so important, because it's so easy to just burn down very, very quickly. But if you have a reputation, then people are like, okay, you know, these are the Simply guys. I've been following these guys for like 6 years. I know what they're talking about. They've been saying the same things day in, day out, day in, day out. But the moment that, for whatever reason, we start shilling shit coins, right? Watch our reputation get destroyed in 2 seconds, right? So the internet does have that check, right? It does have that check where you can build an amazing reputation. People start to trust you. But again, if you start getting bought out, so to speak, you start getting bought out, or, you know, you start, you know, saying things that are not true, people are going to be very quick to find their second favorite independent content creator, and they're going to, you know, move the page very, very quickly. And I think that helps keeping people honest. I think that helps people saying the truth, right? Which again, legacy media doesn't have to compete with this model, right? I think they were part of the people that were actually pressuring the platforms to censor and to say, hey, remember it was so funny. It was like, if it's not an official news source, you know, be careful for misinformation. And then at the same time, it's like, wait, you guys are literally like the amount of misinformation. Remember when they doctored the video of Joe Rogan? I do. And they literally made him greener than he was. Like, what is that but not misinformation?
They want to control the narrative. They're like, we're the establishment, we've been in power this long, you should trust us, don't trust them. And another thing that you said is the audience is not dumb. People aren't stupid. They see through it. They're like, okay, this person's been bought out. Why are you saying this? Some things are shifting. Like, people want authenticity, no matter how it's delivered, and they want authenticity. And also at the same time, like you said, playing devil's advocate too, is some of these creators will get bought out, or some have already got bought out, and they've switched their narratives. They grifting is the term on the internet, and people aren't dumb with that either. And you see, like, you know, like you say, you can ruin your reputation overnight on the internet, and that, you know, and that's very, very important with the internet, because the good part is it gave everybody a voice. Bad part, it gave everybody a voice. So now it's going to boil down to are you sticking to your same message? Is your message congruent with your behavior? And also, are you shifting or grifting? Because we can notice that. And if you are shifting, did you let your audience know? And did you let them know why? As people will give you grace as long as you're honest and upfront. Now, Whether it's good or bad, that's up to you. But honestly, that's a risk. But so your authenticity and your messaging and you just being authentic to your message and being honest with your audience and having them in mind, that's who's going to win.
100% agree. I think authenticity is a superpower on the internet, right? Yeah. I think the more that you are yourself, the more that you are unapologetically yourself, the more you speak truth, right? I think the more people are going to resonate with you, the more people are going to connect with you. Yeah. I think the moment that you start deviating from truth, and I think the moment you start selling people on something that obviously isn't true, I think not only you're going to lose audience, but people aren't just going to resonate with you anymore. Yeah. And I think that we used to live in a world where, again, it kind of reminds me of like, you know, like these like ultra authoritarian countries like North Korea, for example. Yeah. Like there's a reason they don't have internet there, right? There's a reason they don't want people just consuming the information they don't want to. And it actually reminds me, like, you know, that the Soviet Union's official newspaper was called Pravda. If you translate Pravda to English, it literally means truth. Truth, yeah. Right? But it was like, but if you live in a world where there's only one newspaper, if you live in a world where there was only a handful of media outlets, it kind of is easy to control what people perceive as the truth. It is easier to sell the people on a narrative. And they even come up with like counter terms, which is like, this person's a conspiracy theorist, or this person's a kook, or this person's this. But now in the era of the internet, that's very, very difficult to convince people of, because it's like, wait a second, listen, you told me the sky's orange. I just tuned into, like, you told me that Joe Rogan's a kook. I just tuned into Joe Rogan. He's making a whole lot more sense than what you're saying, right? Like, what's going on here, right?
Imperfection is the new perfection. So, and people have realized, like, they've been watching these news outlets or watching these other types of shows and realize they've been sold a narrative, and it's not actually them being honest. It's a meaning behind what these platforms are doing, or these people are doing for them. They want to steer the audience. You know, it's conditioning. And they want to condition people to think this way. It's this way. Shut up. Sit down. This is the truth. Don't do that. It's just like, it's that teacher that you had that's just so militant in school and you just didn't like him or her. It's just that, hey, you feeling like you're being misled. And that's a lot of what they do. It's a lot of misleadership, misinformation. And that when you can able to confuse people, you're able to control people. And that's all confusion does. And now you have people like yourself, other creators, they're out here who have the audience's best interest in mind, because it is really so simple. If you can actually take care of people or give people right information, they'll take care of you as a byproduct. And, you know, it's just, it's a good thing we're shifting out of that. And like the world moving forward is just creators just being 100% authentic and being with platforms that are 100% authentic, because people will call you out. Like, you can't avoid that.
Absolutely, 100%. But this is why, Justin, what you guys are building is so important. Yeah, it's so it served such an important purpose for what I coined it called. I think we're living through this era of the disintermediation of things. And what we first lived through, it was the disintermediation of information. Right. Thank God you guys existed. Right. Because you guys helped facilitate that. You guys helped enable independent thinkers and voices, and you guys had the infrastructure where they had the ability to talk freely to their audiences. I don't know what would have happened if you guys didn't exist, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would just be mainstream media 2.0.
Yeah,
and that's all it would be. It just moved to the internet. That's all it would be.
And then the other point I want to say is where we're heading into, which again, platforms like Rumble are so important, is we're heading into the disintermediation of money. Yeah. Right. Which again, it goes hand in hand with the disintermediation of information, because again, if you don't have information disintermediated, what do you think the controllers of money are going to try to tell you and try to convince you of? Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's so important what you guys doing at Rumble. Here at Simply, we're super fans of Rumble. You guys know this. We stream every single Monday through Friday to Rumble. All of our shows, all of our content, it's all on Rumble. We're super fans. You guys were there for us when we got deplatformed. We will never forget that. And I think what you guys are doing is incredibly important. Go check out the Rumble wallet, ladies and gentlemen. It's live right now. You guys could go check it out. Just search Rumble wallet and you'll be able to find it. Again, it's non-custodial. It's so important. So even if Rumble wanted to freeze the funds on the wallet, they literally could not do so. That's the way to build a wallet. So go check out the Rumble wallet, guys. It's live right now. Before we wrap up, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Guys, you have to go to Mining Disrupt in Miami, Florida. You definitely don't want to miss it. July 21st through the 23rd, 2026, Miami, Florida, Mining Disrupt, the largest Bitcoin mining conference on planet Earth. You definitely don't want to miss it. Use promo code simplybitcoin to get 20% off your tickets. Again, simplybitcoin to get 20% off your tickets. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Give us a follow on Rumble. Shout out to Justin, who's joining us in the studio today. And guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.